Hello everyone. Do you know that around 80% of the US population has a gambling experience? If you have no idea how much is that, it is approximately 257 million of people. And that's only for one America. What is even more surprising is that from 4 to 5% of the people are doing it regularly, which simply means that these people have an addiction. But what is addiction indeed? According to Encyclopedia Britannica, addiction is a habitual abuse of something which leads to adverse consequences. So gambling addiction on its turn is a constant urge to gamble in contempt of bad consequences, health or finance related. If you are still interested in knowing more about it, I will tell you what is the approximate probability of you being addicted from the gambling. Please guys, can you raise your hands, those people who has an experience of gambling? It can be any type of casino games, or it can be a sport betting. Alright, for those guys who raise their hands, for females has a probability of 12%, whereas for males it is almost 37%. Those guys who didn't raise their hands have a fewer chance of being addicted from gambling, which is 2.5% for females and 7.2% for males. In a few more minutes, I will try to explain you why some gender characteristics can play a crucial role in terms of becoming an addicted person, as well as define some causalities and treatment methods of problem gambling. First of all, let me ask you one question. What does a hobby mean for the biggest part of the people in the world? So it's basically an activity for doing which the person should devote some part of his or her spare time. But what happens if that activity is not useful, or what is even worse, negatively affect the person who is involved in doing it? Then one might say the person should discontinue doing it. Alright, but what if the person cannot stop doing it? What if he or she does not realize that this activity has a certain negative impact? In that case, it is worth noticing that this person has an addiction. No doubt, the gambling problem is one of the most widespread examples of an addiction. One may ask how people become addicted. What are the causes for it? Actually, the main cause for every single addiction is a psychological disbalance. Some people are driven with the aim of winning the $1 million, whereas the others just want to spend their time in the way they used to. Causes are different, while the epicenter of all of them is located in mind. In case of gambling, the person who already tried once unconsciously wants to get his or her money back. The only difference between the normal person and the addicted one is that the first category of people, while assessing the further risk of gambling, understand it is almost impossible to win some money. After spending a solid amount of time and money as well, the addiction effect tends to reinforce, which makes the further gambling a habitual thing. The intuition behind that is very simple. The more you play, the more you are addicted. According to Mossadegh, the owner of PhD in psychology and neurology, some patients have inherited origins of that problem. If someone of the elderly family members had either drug or alcohol abuse, the chance of children to have some kind of addiction will increase. There is a biological intuition behind that statement. Genes and neurons, that are the core elements of the human's brain, tend to create the personality of the children by giving the both characteristics of both the parents. Therefore, parents having some kind of addiction or bad habits will put the baby under the risk of having the same one in the future. Getting familiar with the causes of the gambling disorder, it is worth mentioning what kind of people are more tempted to gamble. What demographic groups do you think are the most vulnerable in case of gambling addiction? Alright, let us think of it. As we all know, from the early childhood, our parents are giving us a set of values and morals which we are going to use in our future. But why they are doing that? Simply because our brain, at the early stages of our life, is like a sponge. It tries to take as much new information as is possible. Our parents, by giving us a moral of what is good and what is wrong, is trying to protect us from appearing in any unwilling situation or committing something prohibited. Based on the information mentioned above, it becomes really obvious that the younger the individual is, the more chance of being addicted he or she has. Nevertheless, age is not the only factor which matters here. A statistical analysis conducted by Anonymous Gamblers Society shows males are more exposed to become addicted than females do. One of the possible answers that GA specialists have outlined is that, with regard to this tendency, is that females, as a rule, tend to manage their finances more wisely comparatively to the males. As a consequence, men have more chance to spend the money on some unexpected things, like gambling. Now, when I discuss the demographical aspect of problem gambling, it is worth mentioning some methods of how that addiction can be healed. It is important to say that there is no one unified and guaranteed method of curing people with some mental disorder. As Chen and Jindani explained in their journal article, Mindfulness and Problem Gambling Treatment, cure methods can vary in accordance with the degree of the illnesses patients have. One way of problem gambling treatment is called step-based program. For the sake of simplicity, I will use the real-life case of that type of treatment. There is a case where the old man spent almost 7 years playing the slot, playing the machine slots on a regular basis. And as psychologists and neurologists were concluded, after some period of time, he was unable to realize how harmful his hobby is. Then they invented a solution, which actually was in gradual decreasing level of activity, as well as continuous visits of the psychologist. After some time, he suddenly realized that by gambling, he lost social and family connections, and if it would continue, the situation would be even worse. Today, he has a wife and 2 children, and he is not a gambling addicted person anymore. However, being back to curing methods, the most common way of healing the problem gambling is self-help approach, meaning that the addicted person is trying to stop gambling without any psychological assistance. A study conducted by Wendy Stutsky, a professor of University of Missouri, revealed that, that this healing approach is more effective for most people who has a gambling experience of 1 year or less, or who are doing it not regularly, which is maximum 2 or 3 times per month. In conclusion, I want to recall some important aspects I was talking about. Basically, there are 2 commonly met causes for problem gambling, which are psychological and heritage causes. As statistics and multiple researches show, males and kids are the most vulnerable social groups. There are many possible ways of curing the problem gambling, depending on the level of gambling experience the patient has. To finalize my speech, I want to tell you the quote of a famous psychologist, Sally Curie, who said that the best way to cure the gambling is not to start the gambling. Thank you.
Questions?
It was boring.
Can I comment?
I have a question.
Go ahead, ask.
You had something.
My question is important.
Do you think your trading in stocks could be associated by gambling? Because you said you deal in stocks, yeah?
Yeah.
Would you get addicted to that and lose money and keep doing it?
To some extent, yes, because you're putting some money and you want to multiply it. Yeah, in that sense, it is gambling. But
how come that's more acceptable
yeah,
to do
if
that?
we are related to the gambling itself, some type of casino games like poker or blackjack or machine slots, most of them are unpredictable, right?
Right.
And when we are talking about the stocks, it is more about the intelligent risk, you know?
Do you have a
So
gambling? Like, what's your extent on? Yeah, what's your extent on, like, you know, putting money in stocks?
Question, but yeah.
No, but like, do you have a limit?
I had experience of sport betting.
Oh, okay, yeah.
What sport was it?
It was soccer as a fan.
Okay.
Do you have a question, Aisha?
No, I had a comment. I wanted to tell him that he practiced really well because all the statistics and stuff, it was in his head, so
Yeah.
I could see that he practiced a lot.
Yeah.
Most of us just
I-
was reading.
Actually, I didn't think it was boring at all.
Yeah, exactly. Interesting.
My question was more about what may be relevant to what Rafa was asking. Does it differ for different types of things you can gamble with? You know, so are the statistics different, or is it the same? I mean, these studies that people are doing, it's very interesting that, for instance, gender is a factor, age is a factor, you know, hereditary traits are a factor. It's very interesting. And I actually didn't know about the gender stuff. I mean, that's interesting on its own, so I'm glad you brought it up. But I'm just wondering, did you find anything about whether that differs depending on the different type of gambling that people do?
It is, yeah. But I was limited in time, that's why I eliminated some of the parts.
Yeah, no, that's fine. But did you come across anything when you were reading?
Yeah, of course.
Can you give me an example of like the different types of gambling, maybe how their addiction is different?
Yeah, the most common one is machine slots,
Okay.
which is completely unpredictable.
Unpredictable. You see, that's what I mean. Some things can't be measured.
So, in that sense, it is one of the most dangerous kind of gambling addictions that can be. But some kind of poker, not the most common, which is Cas Holden.
Okay.
They are mathematically calculated, which is also a science. So I don't think that some kind of poker should be related to the gambling.
See, I think that is very interesting.
Yeah.
What was the name of that movie?
21.
31. 21.
Yeah.
Something like that. I mean, that's just interesting. If it's a science, I mean, you do still get addicted. I mean, these people were definitely addicted to it,
Of course.
to the game. But then it stopped being so much gambling, and it was more smarts. You know, like who can out, but that's still gambling. So it's a very interesting and rich topic.
Like, is it true that they say that the house always wins, like in like casinos and Las Vegas and stuff? The house always wins. And like, how can you like explain people like Dan Bilzerian that he always wins and he's like very successful in gambling? Because they say the house always wins. But I think that's so true.
I don't think that it is true, even in some kind of sense, because the casino is structured by the way, on the way that 99% of the people who are entering the casino, they are going to lose. So only less than 1% of people who are coming to casino, they have a tiny chance to win.
So it's true that the house always wins.
Yeah, of course the house always wins.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.